It's thinking. Okay. It's playing it right now.
The intro.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 minutes. Where's my hat?
It's just playing the intro right now. We're 41 seconds into the intro.
Long as 2 minutes.
10 seconds. And 2 minutes. Oh, it's longer than 2 minutes.
Is it?
We're at 2:03. Okay, we're live.
Well, today is our typical day. Kind of getting kids ready to go to school, grandchildren that we've adopted. Today is wait a minute. Today marks 3 years that we lost my daughter. And we lost her to kind of mental illness. And so today I just wanted to share with you a little bit of our story. And we're not going to start at the beginning because it's a long story. It's 7 years of battling a system that's broken to figure out why people with mental health issues can't get the help they need. And it's not as easy as waking up and saying, I'm going to get help today. And the other part of this that doesn't get talked about is how it affects families. So 7 years ago, my daughter became mentally ill. It was a long journey of fighting board meetings, fighting law enforcement, fighting to get her services, and it just failed. And then there became this war on homeless people because in her mental health issues, she became homeless. And I spent 7 years trying to figure out why we couldn't get her help. So fast forward to now. So it was about this time that LeAnn had called me on November 17th of 22. And she needed money and she was hungry. And I was like, LeAnn, I don't have money today. And I hung up and I called her back. And I said, I'll see you in a few minutes. I'll be down there. So I go where she's at, down on Parkview. This is where, after multiple sweeps by local law enforcement, Reading Police Department, and the boards voted this in and thought it was a good idea to push all these people out of their safe spots up into the street, back into public spaces, on roads they probably wouldn't normally be on. And I actually got to have that conversation with her that most parents don't get. Like, I love you. You know, I'm sorry this is happening. We'll work this out. Come for Thanksgiving. You can bring your boyfriend. And it was a good conversation. And I said, I love you. And she walked away and said, I love you. And then 4 hours later, I get the phone call. So it was here where I was with my kids. My kids, her kid, LeAnn's kids. And I picked the phone up, and it's just this hysterical guy. I couldn't even understand what he was saying. All I heard is dead, and she's and like a thousand things went through my head. I was like, did she overdose? And to be clear, that she didn't go to the streets because of drugs, but when you get out there, eventually they use, and people influence you, and that's a whole nother argument. But she wasn't out there because of drugs. She was mentally ill and she was autistic. So I really didn't know what to expect. So I called my husband at work, and I'm like, come home now. Fucking just come fucking home. And I grabbed my stuff and I just left the kids here, but not knowing that my good friends and people that understood all this stepped up, and I didn't even know that was going on. I just ran out my door. So I kind of want to take you on a journey of what this feels like. Okay, we'll be back, John, okay? Maybe we'll get out of here. What do you need, sister? I'll see you in a minute, okay? Okay. Anyways, this is our day. This is how our days go. We're usually out the door late. But I didn't have this car at the time. And 3 years ago, it wasn't raining like it is today. Let me see if I can put my coffee down without spilling it everywhere. But somehow, in all my panic, I was able to grab my purse with my driver's license and all that good stuff. And I think I just, the whole time was like, oh my God, this is bad. And being a first responder, I just knew it was bad just from the phone call from her boyfriend. He just was hysterical. And, your heart's already dropped. Everything's going through your mind. And I just had to tell myself, I have to calm down. I have to stay calm. And I'm on the phone with my husband, and I'm just like, this is bad. I don't know what to do. I don't, just come home. This is just bad. And I'm like trying to breathe and trying to just calm myself down. And I kind of had to get into first responder. This is the drive I took. This is from my house. If you want to show them the drive again, and I'll talk a little bit. So on Facebook, all social platforms, you'll repost like homeless people are douchebags. They're all drug addicts. They chose this lifestyle. This is what they want. They don't want the help. And that's not true. This is such a multi-layered issue. And then the other part of that is like, where's the parents? I would never let my kid be homeless. I would never do this. Why weren't the parents there? This is their fault. And let me tell you how much I battled the system. It wasn't from my lack of doing things or wanting to do things. It was a lack of government programs being severely broken in California. People not being empathetic or understanding to what people really go through when they have a mental health crisis and or an addiction. It's both sides of the coin. You got mental health issues, drug addiction, which can turn into homelessness, which it does for a lot of people. And then there's trauma behind all that. But people only want to see what they want to see, and that's what's on the outside. They see a dirty person doing jumping jacks in the road or whatever. We're living in a pile of garbage. They all have a story. And it's not all just because they woke up one day and did some drugs and then, they got bit by the bug. It doesn't work like that. There's a story behind all these people. And you can't treat it until you understand it. And I did get to understand this community for 7 years. I've been to almost every homeless community here. I've talked to people. I've heard all kinds of stories, and they're tragic. But at the end of the day, the government is broken, California is broken, and the services are broken. So technically, this is the drive I took, and I was speeding, um, just freaking out. Didn't know what I was going to pull up on. Didn't understand really the magnitude of what had happened. And I have this guy's phone call just screaming in my ear. Just that's all I could hear was him crying and screaming and just saying she was dead. But I had to take that with a grain of salt in hopes that maybe it just looked bad. Maybe it just looked bad. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. But the EMT inside of me, deep down, really knew that this was bad. So I'm running all these stop signs. I'm now not in para mode, really. I am in first responder mode, and I'm safely flying through these stop signs. I'm, driving like as if I was going to drive an ambulance. And, this is just every parent's worst nightmare. A lot of people will say, well, they're responsible for themselves, they're adults. Okay, that's a true statement. But my daughter was also autistic. And the whole time that we tried to get her help, the things that get in the way are laws like HIPAA. HIPAA is a law that kills people. Because if you're mentally ill and you really don't understand that you're unwell, and you don't know how to get the help that you need, and people don't want to listen to the family, they don't even involve us in trying to get people help. If the person that's in trouble does not give full, clear permission for you to even talk about how they got there, you're out of the equation. There's nobody to help you even talk to your person that's sick, like LeAnn. They gave me no tools, no ideas, didn't work with me, didn't say, hey, what can we all do together as a unit to help your daughter? Never was on the table. It was just like, well, she didn't give us permission to talk to you, so we can't talk to you. And I go, well, how are you going to help her if you don't know how she got here? If you don't know her backstory, how do you know how you're going to treat her or what to treat? So these services have no idea why these people are out here. They get the little bits and pieces that, like LeAnn may have told them, or you just look on the outside and you just assume you know what's wrong with them. Or you assume they're all just backed out on drugs. Well, that's not true. You got true addicts, like we all done in our life, probably been to a few parties, did things that we probably wouldn't do now. And some of us leave it, we never look at it, or whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's prescription medication. We were all lucky enough to maybe have experimented, and then we're normal after that. We were able to, some people aren't that lucky. And it's not a choice. Some people are born with mental health issues, whether they have they're wired wrong, or I don't know how, eventually in life it just happens. It's out of your control. It's not a choice. Autism is not a choice. I didn't really know my daughter was autistic, when she was diagnosed with ADHD, which was a misdiagnosis. That was just coming around. So they were diagnosing all children with ADHD, and they just fill them up with doses of medications. And for LeAnn, that never worked. And she wasn't a bad kid. She just processed things slower. Her brain processed at a different speed than other children in school. She was also dyslexic, and the schools would never address that. But they didn't accommodate any of her needs at that time. They just threw her into the what we call the bad kids room, which really weren't bad kids. They just struggled. They gave them a packet to learn with, and they were never really taught anything. Now, LeAnn was very intelligent. She knew right from wrong, but action and consequence, that was hard for her. And she never really mentally developed. At the time of her death, she probably had the mindset of a 15-year-old. And unfortunately, some of the calls I have had from her got disconnected on my, or got erased on my cell phone. Otherwise, I'd play those for you, and you would think she was like a 15-year-old. So this drive took me. We probably live about 15, maybe 20 minutes from where we're headed, where LeAnn got hit. Um, I drove this drive in about 10 minutes. I took I-5 south. I get off of Cypress Avenue. Thank God there wasn't a lot of traffic. And I'm just like dying on the inside. And I think even part of me was starting to shut down a little bit. I don't know how, everybody handles this kind of stress differently, but I think for me, in my life and the things that I've been through and the traumatic events I've been through, I've learned to shut down a little bit, which is it's not a healthy thing. So I go through this road right here. This is Cypress. And I come to this stop sign. And thank God there wasn't this kind of traffic. This was 6 o'clock at night, mind you. So I was able just to kind of do my California stop, and I just frickin' put the pedal to the metal. And this is a main street where most homeless people used to hang out. There's all the local stores were here. You have all the gas stations here. And then you have it sits on the river, on the Sacramento River. So there's a lot of nooks and crannies where they used to camp out and stuff, which kind of kept them safe. And we can get into all the reasons why they shouldn't be here, and look at the trash, and look at this, and look at that. When they started these sweeps, they started sweeping everybody out into these main roads, and people started getting killed, ran over, and basically the community just saw it as like, oh, that's just another homeless person we don't have to worry about. But you didn't have the services for them either. And then the city came out and said, well, we're going to do these sweeps because we have housing for them now. We have 200 beds to put these people in. That was a complete lie. They needed an excuse to be able to legally do these sweeps without any responsibility or any legal action against them. Now, this is the last place where I want people to be, especially my child. I mean, I never saw this coming. If you had asked me 10 years prior to that we were going to go down this road, never crossed my mind. And even when she came out here, due to some traumatic events she went through that caused her to lose her marbles, which included losing a baby, I thought it was temporary. I did not understand the magnitude of what was happening as a parent. I'm a first responder, but that doesn't give me all the knowledge I need to know about my own kids, because it changes when it's yours. But I don't want people out here any more than the next person does. But when you do these sweeps and you take all their stuff and it looks like trash to you, but that's what they survive on. And our homeless community is different than like homeless communities that you would see like in San Francisco or LA or places like that. We kind of got a hodgepodge of forgotten people. But still, law enforcement comes out here and they treat them poorly. And even when I was trying to communicate with them about my daughter, they would tell me to fuck off. I don't want to talk to you. These are just homeless people. There's drug addicts. And I would try to explain to them, no, this is bigger than that. She's got something going on. So here, this is the corner. This is Parkview where LeAnn got hit. This is the road the guy was taking when he hit her. So I'm going to go a little bit slow here. So he's driving down this road. My daughter is up the way getting a soda at a local store. She goes in, comes out with her soda. She goes to the crosswalk and she gets cut off by a car. So she crosses the street and then this guy runs her over. So when I got here, this part of the road right here was blocked off by one law enforcement. So I went around him and I literally had to park right here. About right here is where I stopped. She's at that store. She was in that store over there getting a soda, not hurting anybody. And LeAnn never hurt anybody, just to be clear. She was not violent. She gave everybody her money. She had SSI, but she would give everybody her money because she didn't want them to go without. So she came out of that store, walked to the driveway there, and we'll see it here in a minute. And there's the park police that like to, bully people. She went to that street corner right there to try to cross there, and she got cut off by a car. So she turned and crossed the street. And so she turned and crossed the street, and this guy's going on the straightaway. He said, and it wasn't raining that night. It wasn't cloudy like they tried to say it was. It was a clear night. And then they said, oh, well, it was dark. Well, where she crossed, there's 2 street lamps that lights up that area. So she was almost across the street into the bike lane when he ran her over. He said, I didn't know I hit anything until I hit them, and I didn't know what I hit. And he didn't stop for 260 feet. So by the time I got here and parked right here, I was going to walk this walk, but I don't know if you want to walk in the rain. It's illegal for me to park here. By the time I got here, it was 10 minutes and this guy was gone. Their family came, picked him up, and took him home. And he got to go home. So I get out of my car here and I run because now I can see the ambulances. I can see her laying on the ground. And I'm running up, and then I get accosted by 3 law enforcement. And not one time did they ask me who I was. Not one time did they say, who is this? But I'd already said, hey, that's my daughter. That's my daughter. And they wouldn't let me go up there. But at no time did they do any kind of de-escalation. And I wasn't freaking out. Like, I wasn't screaming and being uncontrollable and all that, And at some point, one of the officers said something. And that's the store she was in. I don't remember what he said, but it set me off. And it kind of triggered like just a very short, angry episode, I guess, for lack of better words. And I was like, you tell Chief Schuler I'm coming for him. I told you she was sick. I told you she needed a hospital, and you guys didn't listen. That's all I said. And then pretty soon they pushed me almost all the way back to my car. And the one officer goes, you're inappropriate. You're inappropriate. And I go, that's my daughter. I want to go up there and be there. You're just going to let her die without me being there. I go, I want to be up there. And he goes, you're inappropriate. That's all he would tell me. And out of the 3 of them, not one of them said, what is your name? Or Miss Woods, how can we help you? Or Miss Woods, just let's sit down here. Let's talk about it. No de-escalation skills at all. And I'm not law enforcement. I'm an EMT. I've been doing it for a while now. And we spend a good majority of our time de-escalating emotional people. So you tell me that law enforcement at that moment couldn't do that. They didn't even say 2 words to me. They just let me sit there and cry. Nothing like, oh, it's going to be okay, or, we'll get you up to the hospital. No, nothing. And then pretty soon the ambulance takes off. So then I go back to my car, and somehow the car got locked. So now I got my boot on. I tried to break my window to get in to follow this ambulance up to the hospital. And that's when my husband pulled up in one of his work trucks and was able to take me up there. But technically, this is where she got hit. She was in the intersection right by the yellow crosswalk right there. So you can see where she got hit. She came right out of this driveway, was walking to Ackerd, which is Ackerd and Parkview, went to go to that crosswalk, but a car cut her off. So she crosses where everybody crosses, almost to that light post. So technically, it's kind of like a 3-way corner. So she was almost in this bike lane right in front of us when she got hit. And it was instant. I mean, it was instant. And then he didn't stop. He never slammed his brakes on. He didn't stop for this amount of time. And I think right here by this truck is where he finally pulled over. So if we get out and look back, let's walk around. I'll get the umbrella out. We'll see how far that is. But the whole point of this, you can't look at homeless people like they're just douchebag drug addicts. Yeah, some of them are criminal, but the good majority of people out here are decent people. They just, whatever happens. lack of, lack of a father in the home, like my kids. Um, there we go. You with an umbrella, or
Okay.
lack of support at home. Who knows? Were they abused as a child? Um, but this is how far it took him to park. So you want to show up there?
Yeah, we'll walk all the way.
Okay. So whatever events happen in their life, you have officers that have become homeless because maybe they had post-traumatic stress from their job. Um, maybe kids were abused. Maybe females were raped or molested. Maybe boys were raped or molested. I mean, there's so many factors in what causes somebody to become homeless. In LeAnn's case, I think it was her misdiagnosed autism. It was the schools not supporting her. It was getting bullied at certain times of her life, and it was not having a good father in the house. And everybody wants to disband family dynamics. Well, you're going to get more of this thing. Kids were meant to have a mom and a dad. So, and I was a good mom. I loved my kids. We did a lot. I wasn't perfect. I was going through my own shit. And you do the best that you can in those situations. Um, my current husband is not the father of my children, but he's taken them on. So in all of this, yes, we're now raising her 3 children. So down there is where this guy came from, all the way down there. This is the straightaway he was on. You look at the yellow crosswalks. So she was already walking across the street. She was almost in this bike lane right here. And then he says, well, I didn't see her. I didn't know I hit anything until after I hit him. I didn't know what I hit. So he hit her about right there. And she landed about where that drain pipe, or that, what is that called?
Manhole.
Manhole is. And then he didn't stop until where those cars were parked right down there. So in my mind, he was going to run. And he was thinking, and he finally pulled over. Like I said, the time I got here, which was about 10 minutes, he was gone. He got to go and they didn't breathalyze him. They didn't do anything, didn't test him for anything. And they ended up to find out my youngest daughter knew who he was because she's a bartender, and he can't see. He can see well enough to drive in the daytime, but for the most part, he can't see well to be driving in the evening time. And he walks with a cane, so none of that was taken into consideration. So at the end of all this, RPD finally found out who I was because I had spent 7 years in the board meetings talking about why can't we get help for my daughter and these other people, because then it got bigger than just my daughter. I didn't realize how many of these people were being forgotten, abused, kicked around, their stuff taken, and then at that point, why would they want help from any of us when you treated them like shit? I wouldn't want help from anybody that's done that to me. So, that my mission became bigger than just my daughter. So, and really, the only people that really remember my daughter or come to see her are the homeless people. So this is a poll, and you can see where the homeless people are left doing notes, and they got to come and they got to come from over yeah, I come and put flowers and I do things, but when I come down here, I see a new thing every day. Like there's a ring right here that wasn't there before. Better put that back. But there's always new flowers. There's always new wrap. This bracelet wasn't here before. So they come and honor her all the time because she was a good person. She wasn't just some drug addict. So I guess my plea to people is, when you see homeless people, don't just look at what you see on the outside. It's a far bigger story. And the services are very, very broken. And obviously you guys see it all over the news where Gavin isn't with the money he doesn't provide. And then, these cities get the money, but all they do is hire more law enforcement. There's still no housing. We still don't have a dual diagnosis and emergency center here. They want to build a mental health facility here, but this place has a bad record. They've treated their employees horrible. They've treated their patients horrible. They've been in court. They've been sued. But this is the hospital they want to bring here. You know, it has to be humane treatment. This is, like I said, this is today. It was today my daughter lost her life, and I am glad that it was quick. I mean, she didn't feel anything. I don't even think she even knew it was coming. But you know, how could you drive down this road and say, oh, and the local RPD, they wrote like maybe 3 sentences of her getting hit, and then 5 pages of contacts they had over the course of the 7 years that she was out here trying to discredit her name. You know, she was unpleasant to be around. Of course she was unpleasant. You've been rude to her. You've been rude to me. She's witnessed that. You've kicked them around. You've taken their stuff. Um, yeah, why would she be happy to be see you when you're not really providing any services or any result? Because at the end of the day, there is nowhere to put them. Housing's unaffordable. Groceries are, and this isn't a Trump thing, so we'll just get that straight. This happened long before Trump became president. So, unaffordable housing. You can't afford groceries. You can't afford to buy a car now. So how do you expect these homeless people to get on their feet? It's impossible. I mean, we're struggling. Every day we wonder, is today the day that something's going to happen, we're going to lose our house. My youngest daughter struggles. Every day, you know, they say there's all these jobs, there's not. If us people that are supposedly normal can't get on our feet and stay working and financially, how do you expect a homeless person who doesn't even have coping skills to go get a job and function like so-called normal people? I don't know what normal is anymore, but that's my story. I just wanted to share that with you today. Hopefully I didn't hear too much. You want to say anything?
No, I mean, I like to point out a little bit over here. Let me get closer to the mic so you can actually hear me. But that store over there had everything on video. So everything that they said as far as the driver and the speeds and all that stuff, we were able to kind of disprove all of the RPD's traffic investigation. Their traffic investigation consisted, and we have it, maybe someday we'll post it, but it consisted of, I'm paraphrasing, it's been a while since I looked at it, but it consisted of low light conditions. They said that he was going the speed that he stated, which was 35 miles an hour. Now, as we stand here, you can see that there's a lot of traffic. Maybe some of these cars are going that speed. And it's raining quite hard today. It wasn't raining then. It was around 5 o'clock in the evening, so it was dusk. It wasn't too dark. You can see that there's kind of hard to see the video, but there is street lights on both sides of where we're standing. There's a crosswalk, there's houses, there's a business. Everything was on camera except for the actual impact itself. So you can see where she entered the road. Okay, yeah, so she wasn't in the exact crosswalk, but in California, there is no jaywalking laws. So, fine, okay, I understand that on the driver's part. But the driver also had a history. He had a history of multiple traffic infractions, multiple felony-type traffic infractions, and it's all public record, right? So I'm not saying anything that I shouldn't do. The other part of it, too, is their traffic investigation on him consisted of he didn't appear to be under the influence. So he got picked up within 10-15 minutes of the incident by his family, who is kind of a prominent family in this town, and scooped off the scene and nothing. Everything was meant to discredit her. The police report has, like Brenda said, multiple, you know, contacts they had in the past about her. But some of them weren't even about her. It was like, we received a call for a homeless person trying to steal stuff. And then we got there and then, oh, it was not this person. So they didn't even put stuff that was really relevant. And there was no markings on the ground. All of the tragedy and stresses and trauma that happened at the hospital that evening for us. And then we drove back around midnight, right? So you're talking the accident happened roughly 5 o'clock in the evening, and then midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, we drove back through here. There's no red marks on the ground, no paint, nothing. I've been a fireman for 25 years, and almost every accident scene I go to, traffic collision, I should say, scene I go to, they mark where the tires ended up, where the approximate mark, start of the accident was. Like, they actually do an investigation.
The only marks they had was where he finally stopped.
There was one mark, and it was like chalk. It wasn't actually paint. Um, Other law enforcement friends of ours looked at that and thought it was a pretty poor excuse of a traffic investigation. I don't care who the victim is, they are a victim. I don't care if that victim is a mass murderer, they're still a victim of a crime, and that crime needs to be investigated properly. And I don't feel that the Reading Police Department actually investigated the crime appropriately. Um, yeah,
So that's the story of all this. And even one thing I did leave out is I never fought law enforcement. I wasn't in their face screaming at them. I was actually fairly calm for the situation that I knew it was. Um, but the officer that kept telling me that I was inappropriate actually put his hands on my chest and he pushed me like 5 feet back, like literally pushed me for, and I don't even know why. And all he could just say was I was inappropriate, and it was just like the most shocking.
yep,
Even being like a fellow responder,
yeah,
not having the same respect that we give anybody, whether you're a responder or not. You showed me no sympathy or empathy. Not even want your sympathy. I just, maybe some understanding. And I'm not doing this video to have you feel sorry for me, or, sure, I would like to sway people's opinion about homeless people and addicts and stuff like that, because the stories are deeper than just what you see on the surface. And until we recognize that, and I don't know if it's because people don't want to recognize it because then they would have to accept the fact that it's deeper than just what you see, or if I don't think about it, then I can pretend that it's not happening and then I don't feel bad, or you just have plain unsympathetic people. When LeAnn first got out here, the posts were stuff like, "Oh, look, that girl, she should be shot in the head." We need to get rid of these people. We should just line them up on a wall and take them out, or send them off to another island. And a lot of these people aren't as bad as you think. These people out here, they have communities, and they knew LeAnn didn't belong out here, and they took care of her. They're like, okay, Mama, I'll take care of her. We'll make sure that she's safe, and they did. You know, yeah, they still for each other, but they still have a set of rules. You mess with them, and you won't get very far. So they do have their own set of rules. That probably don't make sense to us, but it makes sense to them, and that's how they survive. And when you've been kicked around by the system and just disappointed so many times, you give up. Well, why try anymore? And that's the saddest part of it all. You have innocent people dying out here. And 2 days after LeAnn lost her life, about 2 blocks down, right on State Street, a newly homeless older lady, she was probably in her 60s or 70s, and she worked in the school system, couldn't pay her electricity bill, so she became homeless. And a truck ran her over, backed up. He was backing up. He had a partner. They didn't get out and check behind them. And while she was sleeping in her tent, she got ran over and got killed. And that continuously happens on a regular basis here. People just don't care no more. Like, oh, you know, sleeping bag, I'll just run it over. So,
the other thing I kind of want to say is that I want to make sure people understand that we are not against law enforcement. We are pro law enforcement people. They have a difficult job, and they work really hard. And also, this community is kind of a smaller community, and we have been first responders in this community since like 2008, right? So we have been interacting with all the different fire agencies, ambulance agencies, all the law enforcement agencies for a long, long time. And we just got kind of cast out because our family member was homeless. And everybody has their own story and the reasons why they're homeless. And she was homeless because of mental illness and traumatic events in her life. And they just didn't want to hear us.
yeah.
Even though we were part of their first responder community, they just didn't care. And that has to do with the specific leadership of this specific police department at the time.
Yeah.
And that was our problem. And every time we brought it up to people, we got fought because we were just, complaining or chalked up as people that were anti-cop or anti-police, and we're not. We support law enforcement very much. There is a lot of good officers out here, but there's also those chunk of them that are not very good. And in light of a lot of things that are happening in this community around the same time, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic and bike traffic from people that are like local church members and things like that of a specific church around here. They did install some more crosswalks and some lights
Not
all the
here
way
though.
on the furthest end of this road, not in this intersection, which is the one that has the most foot traffic for um, people that are unhoused and been put out there for whatever the variety of reasons are. And that's kind of
And the
kind of
mission,
horrible.
the mission here is all on that side. on all on this side. So they put all the services where they have to walk in the most congested area. So, and to give props, a lot of our agencies, minus RPD, stepped up and helped us pay for some of LeAnn's expenses. So that was good. So a shout out to our local fire departments for that. And some of our supervisors for Shasta County helped us with the expenses. And there's one, Kevin Cry, who's actually fought for better services here. But anytime you do anything in the city, you try to do something good. Everybody's going to find 500 things to knock you down, so you can't accomplish anything. But yeah, today's LeAnn's, I guess, third anniversary, if that's what you want to call it. Her kids are now 4, 6, and 12, and she would be very proud of them. She loved her kids. She never abused her children. She loved them very much. So, but I guess that's it. This was more for, I guess, myself, because I haven't really addressed this in this way. I don't think it hasn't felt like it. So hopefully this allows me to do a little bit more recovery. But if you watch this the whole time or you watch it later, thanks for being here. And
There's 4 people watching.
so thanks for being here. And yeah, thanks for walking this journey with us. So thanks.